Get myself situated here. Hi, folks. I'm Brian Lemoyne, and I'm in a computer course, ICS 382, Computer Securities at Metro State University. The professor is Rohit Tandon, and I'm just going to start out with a little disclaimer here that this video is solely for educational purposes and that I am not liable for any damage that could be caused using these demonstrations. That being said, let's get started. I chose to do this video on spear phishing. We talked about several different things in class involving, cyber attacks, whether it's, in this instance, a phishing attack, some sort of email scam, ransomware, you name it, we've discussed it. And I found this one to be one quite interesting. Start out with a little bit of basis. It is a cyber attack. Excuse me. And this is an attempt by hackers to damage or destroy a computer network or system, just to give us some background here. And these are some attacks and scenarios. And as you can see, there are several different kinds. Obviously, phishing here is listed, spear phishing being a subset of phishing, and some other things that we've come across several times throughout class, which is, a denial of service attack, session hijacking, or man-in-the-middle attacks, just to give us some background. And the formal definition of the root word we're going with here is phishing, which is the fraudulent practice of sending emails purporting to be from reputable companies in order to induce individuals to reveal personal information such as passwords and credit card numbers. The origins of this, most of the numbers I found were right around 1996 from hackers stealing American online passwords and accounts. It got its name by the analogy with the sport of angling. These internet scammers were using email lures, setting out hooks to fish for passwords and financial data from the sea of internet users, hence phishing. And I'd just like to start out with those origins we spoke of. Got to find a good place for me here. And it started basically in 1995 with AOL, and it made sense because this was one of the first places where millions of people were getting online for the first time and had no idea that, of course, there were people out there that were out to get them. One of the first known places or communities was the Wares community, which was their inception was to deal in pirated software by using AOL as a connection to each other. And then they, as you can see, initially ended up making the moves to conduct the first phishing attacks. They would do this by stealing users' passwords and using algorithms to create randomized credit card numbers. Shortly after, AOL implemented security measures to prevent these attacks being successful, and of course the phishers were right back at it. They ended up using instant messenger and email systems, and they would pose as employees of AOL and ask for billing information and other private data. And unfortunately, because people had no clue that everyone, of course, was out there to get them, potentially, they gave it up. And then there was another small thing I read about an incident with eGold, which is when they started switching their gears into doing more of a attacking like paid services and the online payment systems and logins and things like that. So this attack wasn't successful, but it kind of planted the seeds for basically everything that happens now. And by late 2003, the evolution had continued, and they had registered dozens of domains that looked like legitimate sites. As we discussed in class, you see eBay with one extra large letter, or PayPal with something rearranged, using zeros in places of O's, and just things like that to see if you weren't paying attention. Then they would send out, spoofed emails to these customers, and then they were led to sites that were potentially spoofed, which basically means that they're a setup that looks as much as possible like the site you would think you're going to, like an average login page, but it's not where you're supposed to be going. And then, of course, they would enter in and give up their information, which is then routed back to the attackers and so on and so on. And then you can see that they were riding, by 2004, a huge wave of success. And pop-up windows were coming out of nowhere, and people, to get grandma, she just thinks, hey, what's that in the corner? I should click it to at least get rid of it. And it all boils down into the same concept as you can see here, that it's the same thing, but just different forms of it. They send you an email, you click on a link, you download an attachment, and it starts a process that unfortunately a lot of people were duped by. Throughout the evolution, when it actually became spear phishing, it's when people realized they could start targeting very specific sets of data or information, whether it's in the right area, whether it's a certain department of a organization, or the CEO is often attacked from inside, basically what looks like a friendly email asking for, important information, but maybe something not too out of the realm of normal. And then once again, people end up giving up that information. This is the fraudulent practice of sending emails ostensibly from a known or trusted sender in order to induce targeted individuals to reveal confidential information, like I just kind of paraphrased. Or another way of looking at it is that it's an email spoofing attack that targets a specific organization or individual seeking unauthorized access to sensitive information. Back down here again. And then you could see that not long after those first few years, the heyday of these, I guess, simpler attack is just a different way of putting it, but they really started to put the time in and research specific targets that they were going to get. And then you can see here, like, these statistics. I'll let you read that for a second. On. And there are two different types of spear phishing. There's the spray and pray approach, which you cast a wide net. You get as many email addresses from an organization as possible, and then you send them out to all of those, and you hope that someone clicks on it, and boom, there you go. And the second is more focused. You decide on what data you're after, then you do the research to find out who has access to it, and then you specifically target those people. This just kind of, shows a little diagram of kind of how this process works and the steps from the attacker. And you can see how it, they're disguised as a trusted email with an attached file, and then it moves on to number 2, where they, if the receiver actually opens it, downloads it, does whatever they need to do to fulfill the hacker's necessity, I guess you could say, then there's potentially installed malicious software, and it sends all the files to the attacker's server, and then someone connects to that and confirms that the files have been sent, and then unfortunately your information is in the wrong hands completely. I'm going to switch over to a video demonstration, because the more I attempted to do this on my own, I feel like this conveys what I'm trying to say, but does a much better job of it. That is the wrong button.